Now, about 330,000 recipients eligible for assistance during the first cycle of the Social Relief of Distress, that's the SRD grants, have still not collected it. Now, also, over 442,000 beneficiaries from the second cycle of the grant between August 2021 and March 2022 have also not claimed their money. The Department of Social Development says that the eligible recipients can still do so. So for more on this, we join on the line now by South African Social Services Agency, that's the SASSA spokesperson, Paseka Letsatsi. Thanks so much for being with us here on Morning Live. Welcome, Paseka.
Good morning, Sakina, and thanks for having us.
So let's just start by confirming the numbers. It's quite a huge number of eligible South Africans who have not yet collected those 350 Rand grants.
No, not true, Sakina. We have about 330,000 people who have not collected from the previous cycle. And remember, we had closed and the money was supposed to be taken to the National Treasury. However, we agreed because we are a listening government entity. The minister then made or effected the amendment to say all those who have not collected their money from the post office can do so at any given moment. But it's only people who have the SMSs from their phone. And we realized that we have this number and we thought that it's important for us to interact with the communities using your platform and other platforms to make sure that we reach out to those people who did not come forward to collect their 350.
So, Paseka, according to SASSA, what do you believe is responsible for this particular occurrence? Why is it that so many people who obviously are in desperate need of this money have been unable to access it?
Sakina, I'm going to make assumptions, but obviously be careful not to paint everybody with the same paint. In some instances, we have people who might have lost their phone numbers. Some people might have changed the number. So when we send the SMS, those individuals might not have the SMS on their phone. But in some instances, Sakina, we have picked up that people, when they made an application, did not give us their bank account. They opted to get money from the post office, and their intention might have gone to an extent that they did not want us to see that there's an amount of money which is flowing in their account numbers and so on. And unfortunately, in some instances, you find that there's a person who might have used a cell phone of somebody else. And in this instance, the person is mobile, has moved out of the community and so on. But we do not necessarily have a certainty in terms of why people are not doing this. We have been trying to appeal, Sakina, to everybody to come forward, but we see that these numbers are stagnant. They do not want to go, are very much stubborn. They don't want to go down. Hence, we are appealing to people that please come forward and collect what is due to you.
So just in terms of the avenues that are available to people who know, those who believe that they still have monies outstanding that are due to them, what are the avenues and how effective are they, Paseka? And I'll ask you this on the back of some of the emails, and you and I communicate quite often. And of late, I've seen quite a few that actually say that, for example, I applied in, say, March 2022. And then when I was finally approved, I wasn't paid from March. I was maybe paid, say, from July. So what happens to the other few months that I was not paid for? Are those sort of instances also part of this number that has gone up so astronomically?
It might be, because you can just understand if there are some months which were not paid. Obviously, it means a person might fall within that particular category. However, we know that we do verification process every month just to be sure that we have the information correctly and the position of an individual has not changed. And in some instances, you find that those particular months where a person was not paid, it's basically because a person, a particular status might have changed and so on. But we do not want people to sit back and not basically interact with us, because if they believe that they were supposed to get that particular amount perhaps from March and not only in July. They need to make sure that they interact with us and appeal to say, I applied in March, I was not getting anything in March. What happened to those 3-4 months? I need to get paid what is due to me. And we will definitely attend to it immediately to make sure that people get what is due to them.
So again, from the perspective, at least of those who interacted with me, Paseka, part of the frustration is not getting any responses from SASSA. And this is why people ultimately then end up sending me their details, hoping that at least because I can speak to you, we would be able to find some resolution somehow. And I must thank you at this point for really going the extra mile and being available for all the thousands of people that we have been able to help. But of course, there are still thousands more who seek the same assistance.
Yeah, true, Sakina. We basically have various channels. We have the toll-free number where people can then get hold of us. But I must make mention of the fact that since the issue of the 350 was incepted, I think we had large numbers of people calling the call center. And in some instances, people become impatient. I want to appeal to people that we will attend to each and every case. And if they are aggrieved and they need to get hold of us, please make sure that you use that particular platform, because we have increased the capacity. We have hired more agents at the call center to make sure that they deal with this volume of calls which come through. Yes, of course, in some instances, it might take a little bit longer, but please be patient, interact with us. We need to make sure that when you drop that phone, we have resolved your matter. But one of the things that we do, Sakina, we interact with our beneficiaries through their cell phone. And if they have got a problem, we then give them this particular number where they can then be able to call. And remember, that's a toll-free number. They don't have to pay. We basically pay. So make use of that particular number. We will interact with you. We have well-trained call center agents who then interact with them and make sure that the matter is closed. But another option, Sakina, I need to make mention of it, that the option of using my email, the option of using my phone when there are problems is not closed. People must feel free, and you must feel free, Sakina, to make sure that you interact and we become the spokespersons, or we represent the communities which suffer most. And I appreciate that, Sakina, and I'll definitely avail myself to make sure that whoever has got a complaint, I'm available to attend to their issues immediately.
So, and again, I must appreciate that, because it's been ongoing since the start of this particular grant payment process, and Paseka Letsatsi has really gone above and beyond to assist whenever we've called on him. Now, Paseka, you know that, some people are sitting there wondering, and I'm looking at some of the messages coming through as I'm speaking to you. Again, the issue of cleaning up the system, because people are saying in some instances they may have started receiving the grant and then suddenly they were told that they appear on some or other government system again, and therefore they were unable to claim. So in that instance, what needs to be done?
In that instance, Sakina, I think what has helped SASSA is that as government, if you work together, we're able to deal with certain things very quickly. Like our system is able to talk to other government departments and entities. I can just make mention of Home Affairs, for an example, to verify if the ID is correct. In some instances, your name appear on NSFAS database and so forth. And unfortunately, Sakina, we have to rely on the database of those government entities. And in that instance, what we basically do is to appeal to beneficiaries that if they get rejected or they get an SMS which says they appear on other government database because they are benefiting from them, they must make an appeal immediately, of which we will then be able to attend to it. Do not necessarily, and you can do that through calling, or you can then basically go back to that particular email address and make sure that you make an appeal. But before you do that, Sakin, I think I need to emphasize this. If you get an SMS which stipulates that you appear on NSFAS database, before you make an appeal, try and make sure that you get removed from NSFAS, because if you make an appeal and your name still appears on the NSFAS database, the system will then reject you again. So try to make sure that you get into contact with them, try to make sure that they remove your name, give reasons why you think that you do not necessarily benefit. And once your name is removed, you can then make an appeal. We will, and I promise, Sakina as an organization, make sure that your matter gets attended to.
Well, we will, of course, I will avail myself once again to try and facilitate some of these disputes and also try and send some of the communication to you, Mr. Letsatsi. But with regard to the extension of the SRD grant, so some people telling me that they've been told that you are not accepting any new applications at the moment. Can you just give us some clarity around that, please?
No, I think what is happening, Sakina, is that there is an interaction between the ministry and the National Treasury. And I think that interaction is basically informed by the fact that we're no longer using the state of the national disaster to process the 350 grant. We are using, say, Social Assistance Act. So there are certain things which you need to change and make sure that we comply with the law. But unfortunately, we need to be given that particular opportunity. And I can assure you, Sakina, but that by the end of this week or maybe early next week, we would have concluded some of those things, and we will definitely communicate to the communities or to those applicants, basically in terms of what is needed. Because remember, we were using the state of the national disaster to process it, and now we had to change because we are now using the Social Assistance Act. So we need to make sure that when we process this thing, everything is above board, and we make sure that we're in compliance with the law.
So any indication as to when you will open for new applications?
We will be done by definitely by towards the end of this week or early next week, and definitely I don't mind to come back here, Sakina, to have an interaction with you, basically to inform the public that these are the processes which must be followed. The applications is open. In fact, let me commit that once we are done, I'll definitely come to SABC and make sure that we communicate to the public.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, Mr. Paseka Letsatsi, because it also gives those watching and listening this morning an opportunity to go and follow the avenues that you have outlined for those who are still trying to claim outstanding SRD grants. So you have a few days to do that, and then Mr. Letsatsi will come back also to talk about new applications and what's happening there. So big numbers. 330 recipients of SRD grants from the first cycle and 442,000 from the second cycle. Money's still lying there for people to claim. So please, if you're one of those people eligible, please try and follow the various avenues to claim your money. That was SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi, and we'll speak to him again probably in the next week or so just to find out what the latest developments are. It's time for the latest.